what got you into fighting, man? And I always like to joke around, with people here. It was like, what kind of trauma did you have as a kid? Because come on, I know, I've seen you, and you're like the nicest guy. You and fucking Davey Grant are just fucking awesome. And yeah, but like there has to be something there a little bit, right? Like maybe
always
some sort of trauma. I think I joked around with a while ago with John Wood about this. It's kind of like every fighter has something crazy that they've dealt with to be able to fight at that kind of level. Like, even the richest people, or if you're doing something great, you have to be a little bit of there's a kick there in your
100%.
brain. So can you tell me a little bit about, was it from childhood that got you into fighting, or, was there like a certain occurrence that got you to like be like, okay, nah, I'm gonna pursue this professional fighting career thing, which is like one of the hardest occupations, by the way.
Yeah, I think because it is one of the hardest things you could possibly do. That's why I was kind of alluding to earlier. It's like nothing forces the greatness out of you, like fighting does. I think it's truly one of the most difficult endeavors that you can set out on to conquer, So, but yeah, for me, it kind of started with me and my stepdad used to always watch the fights together whenever I was little. And I just remember being little, watching the UFC fights on the TV with him. And we were always like, man, what if that was you one day up there? And
Did you say that? Your dad?
Yeah, us both. We both were just like,
you guys were like big fight fans then, huh?
Yeah. It was my stepdad, he was always been, a big fight fan from the early UFC days. So growing up, having him watching the fights and stuff, I would watch with him, and it always just kind of it really captured me, and I feel like ever since I was like 6 years old, I feel like God put it on my heart. Like it just made sense whenever I was watching TV. I was like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm gonna do. Like that's what I have to do. Like I'm gonna be a UFC world champion one day. And you were talking about like the trauma, and it's so funny because I agree with that completely, because
it's like, come on, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but then these guys are like you guys are like the nicest guys in the world, like pro killers, pretty much is what you are. And there's this like nicety aspect because you train and then you let it all out there and then you feel good, right? And then all the chemicals are going, but then it's almost like, all right, man, let's pull it back a little bit. Like, what's going on? What's going on in that brain?
I mean, to me, I think that for me, I didn't really have. I wouldn't say what got me into fighting, or kind of pushed me to do that, wasn't any necessarily trauma related. It's not like I came from like an abusive household, or had some terrible upbringing or something like that. And actually, what's funny is because of that, because I realized exactly what you've just been alluding to. I call it, for myself, intentional delusion, because I'm like,
interesting.
Everybody, especially at the highest level, has like some sort of demons or traumatic past, something like that, that's like driving them to be as great as they are.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need some more of that.
Yeah,
like,
right.
So then I always just joke around and call it intentional delusion.
Yeah.
And I was
delusional confidence or whatever you want.
100% of just like truly believing. Well, I mean, dude, you were saying it earlier, like it's crazy to step in the cage. We're not just playing a game. Like we have the intent of like, dude. I mean, I love it. I really do. The more and more, as much as I hate it because it sucks, it really does. Every bit about it is uncomfortable.
What's the most uncomfortable, man? Would you say? Like, can you nitpick? And
I mean, the most uncomfortable thing is probably failure, like loss. I think that always hurts significantly more than the physical trauma. The pain and suffering you endure physically isn't even as bad as what that sets out on this quest. I think we're all on a quest to achieve UFC gold, because like we were saying earlier, it's like one of the hardest things you could possibly choose to try to achieve, and because of that, it's going to force you to be the greatest version of yourself. And to go back to what you were saying earlier about all, most of these like elite level professional fighters, like these guys are end up being like super soft, gentle guys. You talk to them and you're like, it's so weird that you're, so passive or whatever. But I believe, with any endeavor in life, I really like the quote that facts are many, but truth is one. And I think the truth is the internal pursuit within ourselves. And I mean, ultimately just God. But I think at some point, I think it usually starts with, or at least it did for me, my experience, it starts with this external goal, right? I'm like 6 years old, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to be UFC world champion, right? It's out there. I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get whatever it is that I want. Whether it be the money, the cars, the status, women, whatever it is. It's this external thing. I'm gonna go achieve it. I want to go get it. And then to do that, you start, trying to in your pursuit of these things, like in this chase, you're forced to start looking within yourself, right? Because you're like, you come to, at some point, no matter how long or short, how quickly you arrive at it, you start to realize, oh, if whatever I'm trying to achieve, it's going to come from me being better internally, right? I just have to be a better version of myself. And so I can then perform whatever actions I'm trying to do to achieve whatever I'm trying to achieve. And so it becomes this internal pursuit at some point. And then that's when the real journey begins, is once you flip that spotlight from like focusing on the external, trying to chase these external things, to where now you're like, oh, I'm just trying to pull this out from within me. I have to be better in here. And so that's whenever I think once you start to really go deep down that path towards, what I would coin as like, self-mastery, or, whatever you want to call it. Once you kind of head down that self-mastery, journey, that pathway, you start realizing how little external circumstances matter. It's just about how you respond to them and who you are, right? So then you really start to understand, like, oh, I am my only competition. Like everything else externally is just there for me to better me, like for me to as a challenge, adversity, trials and tribulations, hardships, whatever, to overcome, and to force me to be a better version of myself in order to be able to get to whatever I want, whatever it is I'm trying to achieve, whether it's UFC world champion, to be the best father I can be, or I don't care what it is, even if you're trying to be the best McDonald's employee, it's like all that stuff is internal, it's about what quality of person you are.
Right.